Counting calories is a good way to lose weight, but it's a bad way to keep weight off. I've been coaching clients since 2017, helping them figure out how to eat properly so that they can, drop body fat, improve health markers, improve energy levels, all that good stuff. And the main methodology that we utilized to start was actually tracking and counting, calories and macros. But this was because I got my certifications, I got my education, I learned from people that were doing these things. So naturally, when I started my journey, when I started actually helping people, I leaned into the things that I had learned because that's all you know at the time. But through actually gaining experience and gaining knowledge, what I saw was that while, yes, counting calories, counting macros was effective for helping clients drop body fat, initially, it was very unsustainable for 99% of the clients that we worked with. We were able to quickly help a client lose 20, 30, 40 pounds of body fat, over the course of maybe a quarter of the year. But what would happen was they would always hit a wall about 3 to 4 months in where they were just tired of weighing and measuring and calculating and having to be a mathematician every time they wanted to eat a bite of food. So this natural burnout and this wall, like I said, we were hitting it every 90 days. It doesn't matter the how motive. And at first I thought it was a motivation thing. At first I thought like, oh, okay, I got to expect at about 90 days that I'm really going to have to, amp them up, and I'm really going to have to motivate them. I'm really going to have to hold them accountable. And that really was not the problem. The issue was that they were simply just burnt out on having to quantify and calculate every bite of food that was going into their mouth. And then that's when I started to realize. So I started in 2017. I started to realize by about 2019. So it took me a good 2 years because it took me, a few months to get clients, and then a few months to get clients to stick with it consistently, and then a few months to actually put a process together. So about 2 years all in, kind of learning these lessons. But by about 2019, I started to realize that counting calories was not a good long-term approach because it takes so much time, takes so much mental energy. Maybe it doesn't take a lot for you to calculate it inside your phone app or whatever, but it takes a lot of mental energy to constantly be keeping up with the caloric intake needs that you haven't met yet or have met or whatever. So by about 2020, we really started phasing out of that, and now we've got a lot of clients that have come through our program that have gotten great results without having to track calories, and I'm convinced that this is the better way. So this is the industry standard. When if you go talk to a nutritionist or a dietitian or a sports nutrition coach, like the first thing they're going to do is try to dial your calories in, which, like I said, it is effective to getting you to an outcome. But we don't want to just get to outcomes. We want to keep and maintain and even expand on certain outcomes. I have no interest in helping you lose 30 pounds over the next quarter if by the end of the year that 30 pounds is back. We did a terrible job for you as a company, as coaches, if you lose 30 pounds and gain all of it or even half of it back before the year even ends. But a lot of times what calorie and macro tracking is going to do is going to put you in that place where you get initial results, but then you're not able to sustain it because you're not able to sustain the practices that got you up to that point. And the reason that the industry leans into this is because it's much easier and predictable to quantify something and try to formalize and create a formula for something. So it's much easier, and it's much easier to kind of streamline you through. If you know anything about the healthcare system, the wellness system, medicine, all of that, everything is based on numbers. Like when you go into the doctor's office, first thing they do is they get all your numbers. And then based on those numbers, they decide what type of, either medication or what type of procedure or what type of intervention medically they might need for you. And sometimes they'll bring up like your regular PCP. I'm sure they'll probably bring up you need to eat better, you need to exercise, stuff like that. But it's usually always very vague. The only thing that they have certainty in is if blood pressure is X, then subscribe or prescribe such and such milligrams of Y. Like that's how it's kind of funneled in. And that way everybody's able to follow a streamlined process. That's the entire American system. Everything is systematized so that you can basically plug and play. You can plug a doctor in and plug a patient in, and you can take them through certain steps and processes. And that's kind of why calories have been kind of adopted as that primary approach, because it's easy to say, okay, such and such is X number of pounds and they want to lose such and such amount of weight. This is how many calories they need based on this calculation, based on this formula. Now, the reason that that does not work and that's not effective long term, sometimes even short term, is because the human metabolism is the most complex thing, or one of the most complex things on planet Earth. Like, it is so difficult to pinpoint exactly what upregulates or downregulates metabolism and what actually drives fat loss in the short term and sometimes even in the long term. There are so many different variables. Your a marriage on the rocks can impact metabolism. Working too hard in your job can impact metabolism. Running too much can impact metabolism. Running too little can impact metabolism. Eating too much food can impact metabolism. Eating too little food can impact metabolism. Not eating enough leafy greens. Eating too much vegetables. Like, there are so many different variables based on, and this is for each individual person. So each individual person has a certain amount of variables, has a certain amount of a certain response to certain foods, to certain activity, to certain stressors that either help them lose body fat, help them, increase hunger levels, decrease hunger levels. Like, some people can't eat when stressed out. Some people stress eat to a high degree and to an extreme level. So these two people that are dealing with the same exact circumstances virtually have two different responses to the way that they deal with that stressor or that they deal with that scenario. That alone makes it harder to say, okay, cool, let's eat this amount of calories every single day. All of that goes against all of that gets thrown against the wall when work is piling up, when kids get sick, when you're deficient in a certain vitamin or nutrient that you're not accounting for because all you're worried about is counting calories. The human metabolism is a crazy thing. It's something that we really do not understand that in depth and that deeply. And my personal opinion is that we don't understand it nearly well enough to try to assign a numerical value to the exact amount of food that a person needs to eat. Also, there are too many moving variables in calculation. If you've ever tried out, let's say MyFitnessPal is probably the most popular calorie counting app. You ever tried it out, you type in 6 ounces of chicken breast and you're going to have 200 different responses on how many calories is in this, how much protein is in this, how much fat is in this, because it's all variable. The chickens raised on this farm might have more calories per more calories per ounces or more protein per ounces than the chickens raised on this farm. These chickens might be 13% body fat. These chickens might be 8% body fat. Like, these chickens might have consumed a diet of high quality, minimally processed foods that make the quality of the meat higher, which makes it more bioavailable. Whereas this farm of chickens ate processed crap food that caused them to be very high body fat. And while they are bigger, they have less quality, they terrible omega profile fatty acids. Like, there are so many different variables that go into not only the calculation on the apps when it comes to calorie counting, but even just the actual like living, breathing animals and plants, like the actual caloric makeup, the actual protein, carbohydrate, fat makeup of these foods are gonna vary based on where in the world they came from, based on the method of feeding, based on the method of cultivation, based on the cooking method, based on what's surrounding it. Like, so many variables, way too many variables for you to be able to say all chicken breast is this amount of calories and this much protein. Now, there's an approximation that you can get, but if you eat 20 different things in a day and you have to approximate all of the 20 things, what's the likelihood that you're going to be accurate? If you have to approximate 20 different food items that you consumed, what's the likelihood that you're going to have accuracy in it? And I think that what we find success and progress in when it comes to caloric intake is the fact that people tend to lean toward better food options and they tend to eat less frequently. And I think those two things have much more bearing on making progress when tracking calories than the tracking of the calories itself. And lastly, and this is probably the most important part because, like I said, it is effective. I'm not trying to say that counting calories is not effective because it has been shown to be extremely effective when it comes to actually helping you drop body fat. But it ain't practical. Try counting calories on vacation. Try counting calories when you're trying to cook for a family of 6 and you need to make an entire big dish of something and you got to figure out how to divvy that up by caloric number. Try counting calories when you're on your work trip and you're having to eat out and eat hotel breakfast and nobody has calorie numbers or calorie information included. You have to have a very fine-tuned set of circumstances in order to consistently count and track calories. And the only people that are really able to do this for years and years and years on end are bodybuilders, people that have dedicated their lives to getting their body to look a certain way. And they know and understand that the vast majority of their life, they're going to have to meticulously count and track calories and macros in order to stay under 12, 10, 8, 5% body fat. And if that's your goal and if that's what you're looking for, you're not going to be able to get out of tracking calories. That's just the fact of the matter. More likely than not, you're going to have to count and track calories. I'm sure there are people that don't in the industry, but by and large, if you want to maintain body fat under 11, 12% if you're a guy, under maybe 18, 19% if you're a woman, if you want to maintain those levels of leanness, then you're probably going to have to consistently track calories and macros. You're not going to get away from it. But if you're listening to this and you're watching me, you probably don't want to be a bodybuilder. And if you don't want to be a bodybuilder, then counting calories is probably more work than is required to get you to the outcome that you personally want to get to. And it's definitely not a practical long-term approach for your lifestyle. Maybe good in the beginning to get a feel for the approximate amount of energy or calories in the foods that you frequently eat and getting a feel for what an amount of food that you need actually looks like numerically. But long term, probably not going to be what you need. Here's what you do need. If you can consistently focus on eating real, minimally processed, high quality foods that are comprised, if we're talking about building your meals, comprised of lean proteins, comprised of slow burning carbohydrates, comprised of healthy fats, and then comprised of high fiber vegetables, fruits, and then all of those foods containing micronutrients, which is an extremely important part of tracking calories and macros that kind of gets left by the wayside. And this is why it can be perverted. Like you can hit your caloric intake goals with McDonald's and Oreos and milkshakes. Oh, it fits my macros. I can eat like crap. I can eat all protein bars and protein chips. I have a keto this and a keto that. And it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, you hit your calories. Yeah, you hit your macros, but none of your essential vitamins and minerals are included inside this heavily processed diet. It's like you have to, first and foremost, eat a minimally processed food diet full of lean proteins, full of slow burning carbs, full of healthy fats. Like these things have to be present, or I don't care what you do calorically, you will not be able to sustain it. And you're going to wake up with a bunch of nutritional deficiencies if you consistently are trying to hit your calorie and macro goals with just processed food. The next is going to be to embrace fasting periods. This is something that I found a big struggle with when I coached clients, strictly on calories and macros, was that, like I said earlier, clients would often try to pervert the numbers. You would say, oh, I've got such and such amount of calories left. I can eat, a bag of Doritos. I can eat some ice cream. I can have this. I can have that. Like it was always trying to figure out how to get crap food into your diet. And I am not anti these foods. I'm more of the mindset that you got to stop snacking all the time. Like the constantly eating and the constantly needing to shovel food down your gullet is one of the big reasons. Like that's what I talked about earlier when we talk about metabolism. Your metabolism is extremely complex. And one of the things that adds to the complexity is the digestive system. And if you're constantly eating food and constantly consuming and having to digest food, that will impact your metabolism. That will impact your blood sugar. That will impact your insulin sensitivity. That will impact your body's ability to oxidize and actually rid itself of excess body fat cells. There's no way that you can consume, just be eating and eating and eating all day, even if it's low calorie, low carb, high protein. If you do not embrace fasting periods of hours and hours throughout your day where you are not consuming anything, no food, no drink, just water, or maybe like black coffee. And even then, that's something that in America we definitely abuse is the coffee intake. But if you cannot go hours on end without consuming any food at all, you will struggle to lose weight. I don't care if you hit your calorie numbers or not. You will struggle to make it a consistent thing for yourself if you do not learn how to go periods without consuming food. And then lastly, on the things that you should do instead of counting calories is to up and down regulate your food intake by your activity. On days where you go hiking, you lift weights, you go to the mall, you're, up and out and you running around, you doing a bunch of stuff. Eat more food. You're moving around more. You're giving your body more reason to need more energy. So add more food. Eat the same things, just add a little bit more rice, a little bit more shrimp, a little bit more avocado, a little bit more almonds, a little bit more steak, a little bit more potatoes. Add to the amount of food that you're eating to fuel the activity that you're doing, especially if it's like structured exercise. And especially if it's strength training, because you want enough nutrients for your body to tear down and rebuild muscle, which is going to increase your metabolism, which is going to help you drop body fat faster. When you're moving more, eat more. When you ain't doing nothing, chill out. Eat less. We're not acquiescing our nutritional needs to what our body is doing. If you're chilling, if you're not doing anything, you need dramatically less food. When bears and other animals that go into hibernation, when they go hibernate, they eat very, 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 very small amounts of food in comparison to when they are not hibernating. Those are mammals. If I'm not mistaken, the vast majority of mammals have some sort of hibernation period. Some bears are a little bit more extreme, but all animals have a sort of hibernation period where they eat a little bit less because they are moving a little bit less, typically because of the wintertime. We are the same way. If you're moving less, eat less. If you're moving more, eat more. This simple approach can help you make dramatic progress in your body and health without having to track and log and calculate and write down and spreadsheet every single bite of food that you're eating. Just recently, our client Tiffany was able to drop 13 pounds of body fat. I think we were actually able to get down about 4 or 5% body fat as well. And she did this without tracking not a single calorie. We kept a food journal. We made sure that she was balancing her meals, that she was, hitting a certain serving size of protein. Like, hey, let's get, 4 or 5 serving sizes of protein every single day that roughly get you around 100, 125 grams of protein. Let's do that. Like, we did have a count. I'm not saying that you can just eat whatever and never pay attention to your food intake, but we did not meticulously weigh food out, track the exact calories, the exact macronutrients. And she was able to make dramatic progress and she's feeling better than ever. But we've been doing this in our program going on about 2 years now. And what I'm finding out is that clients are able to sustain this method so much longer than they were to able to sustain tracking calories and macros. Like I said, pretty much every client was hitting the wall by month 3 or 4. We've got our clients in our program now using our Hacks Meal Building System, using the methods that we have inside our program. They're going a year, 2 years, 3 years, consistently hitting targets, consistently staying on track in their nutrition, consistently making progress, and feeling like it's easy. That's the biggest thing. If you want to accomplish anything that you can sustain for life, it eventually has to get to the point where it is easy and it's simplistic to do, and you don't have to think about it. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to obsess over it. You don't have to stop and drop everything that you're doing just to facilitate it. Like, once you can get a system and a method that allows you to do that in your nutrition, you're going to see great progress. You're going to have fun doing it. And that's what's going to sustain you for 2 years, 5 years, 15 years, 35 years. because we want to create systems and approaches and thought patterns and behaviors around our nutrition that allow us to get healthy and stay healthy. We don't want to try to boil everything down to a scientific number that our body will just buck anyway after 4 to 8 weeks when you need a new an adjustment, because your body and your metabolism that's extremely complex has adapted to it. So that's it. I know I ranted a little bit. Hopefully you got a lot of value out of this though. Our main goal and our focus is to end a lot of the health issues, a lot of the obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, heart disease, all the different things that we deal with all over the world, but especially here in the US, like greatest country in the world. We have access to any and everything that we could ever want. And yet we are all eating and sitting ourselves into an early grave. And me personally, I don't want to stand for that. I'm tired of that. I think that a lot of the issues that we are facing as individuals, and then also as an entire country, and then specifically for Black people, a lot of the issues that we face are due in large part to the fact that we are not healthy and we can't figure out how to get healthy. So I think that once we figure that out and once we cross over that stumbling block as a ethnicity, as a country, and then just individually, you looking right here at me in the camera. Once you cross over that stumbling block in your life will dramatically improve. Your happiness will dramatically improve. Everything about your life will get better, even if the only thing that changes is that you get healthy. I truly believe that. And that's why I show up here every single day. And if you believe that too, you can click the first link down in the description. I send out free guides every single Friday, helping you do things exactly like what I just talked about here. And if you even want to go a step further and you're like, hey, you know what? I think I need some help. I've gotten all the information that I could ever need, and I'm still not, making the progress that I want to make. And I need somebody to help me implement this and help me hold myself accountable. If you need that, click the second link in the description. Take our transformation quiz, and we'll help you figure out a tailored, built for you game plan based on your schedule, goals, equipment access, all that good stuff that's going to get you in amazing shape and keep you there for good. So that's it. That's all. Appreciate you tuning in, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.